just won silver place in a very special racing event at Hobbytown. So yes, 15 racers in a 3-lane Toon Class race, and I had here Iron Man. Yeah, Iron Man got one of the 3 final laps, and it ended up being silver place. Yes, pretty cool. So my strategy for Iron Man, this is a very fast car, but my strategy was I looked at lanes 1, 2, and 3, and depending on which lane I would get, when I would race, I would alter my strategy for it, because each of the lanes behaved a little bit differently. And here's what I mean by that. If you raced in lane 1, you're going to basically end up with the lane changer last. And that, my friends, could be a formula for coursing out in a disastrous way. So what you want to do if you raced in lane 1, you lower your battery voltage just a tad. Yeah. So lane 3 I felt was one of the easier lanes to start with, and I ended up with lane 3 at the very end. So I could have upped my battery voltage a little bit more, but I took a conservative route and dumbed down my battery voltage just a little bit so that I could stay on the track, because I wanted to get either first or second place. Now, what would have happened if I had gotten lane 2? I don't know. I'd have to have some sort of a mixed strategy, maybe some battery voltage that was not too high and not too low. I have to think about that a little bit. But yeah, lane 3 for me, you get through the lane changer first, and then the rest is easy peasy pie, because it's just a speed race from there, a speed technical race. And this was not a speed track at all. You can take a look at the track and take a look at it again. You'll see it's not a speed track at all. It's very technical, and with those humpy curves, the dragon back going into another little mini dragon back, that's like really challenging stuff. A lot of cars would get wrecked on this track, and this one, it did fairly well. It got me into the finals. Yes, pretty cool. Now, what I had done here to make it a legit Toon Class car, I got rid of that body catcher material that I had cut here. That was my solution for keeping the cap screw here not hanging off of the sides there. So what I ended up doing was I just like removed that entire piece altogether, and I have a little piece here, these 2 little rubber pipes, and basically everything just snaps in place right there, so it doesn't have a negative camber. Pretty cool. And you know what? I just said to myself, you know, this is probably not going to hang very much. If it does hang, oh well, it's my fault. But I really didn't need that bar on the bottom at all, unless I'm really racing a certain specific type of track. So I just removed it altogether and worked out well for me. So pretty cool, pretty cool. And the rest, well, I just changed all of these parts here and the rest here. So I just changed the front 2 parts from these ball stabilizers to basically rubber pipes, little rubber pipes right here, and that worked out well. And here I changed the high mount stabilizers from black to yellow, as you see here, and I had friction inserted the lock nuts in there so I can just twist them onto place. Yeah, before I didn't have that sort of thing. I just basically shoved piping material down there and hoped for the best, and these were like a little bit wobbly at that point. So it wasn't the best way to insert those high mount stabilizers. Now I've got a way here to basically just do a screw on and screw off if you want to change the stabilizer to some other kind of high mount stabilizer. I have high mount stabilizers that have tubing around it so that it would slow down in really harsh lane changer situations. Pretty cool. Now my other car actually did fairly well in testing purposes, but in the actual racing events, I was able to get to the lap finals with this car, but then I decided to get a little greedy by increasing the battery voltage, and I should have just kept the battery voltage what it was, like in the 152 to 154 category, but I upped it to 158, and that was a little too powerful, and then this car was like coursing out, and also I was getting lane 1 when this was coursing out. So yeah, on that final lap, this was just like popping off the track because various reasons, that lane changer at the very end. Yeah, so there was a point, finals for lap 1, where I ended up with both of these cars in the finals, and I had to race each other, and I just basically said, you know what, I'll just DQ this one and just proceed with this one, because this one is the faster car. So I raced against Leo, and Leo beat me there, and so he got into lane 1. And then for lane 2, got into the finals again, but it was Latif's car that got into the finals. Actually, Latif's son raced that car, and so yeah, he was able to beat me with his car, and I was like, I should have just upped the battery power there. But then in the final race, where I got into the finals for lap 3, I said, you know what, I want to take a slightly more conservative way of going about doing this. So I just like dumb down the battery power just a little bit so that I can get into lane 3. So I was just fast enough to be faster than the other cars, but I wasn't so fast and so greedy that I like basically wanted to just win, right? So there's two types of winning here. You can win, like just inch ahead of other cars, or you can win, right? It's like typically I like to just win, but in this case, I wanted to just change my strategy and just get into the finals. So I took a very conservative approach and I just made it like a little bit ahead of the other cars. So that was my approach there. And then the finals time, I was like, you know what? If I just juice this up to 160 volt batteries, like I could like overtake, I'm not gonna say everybody, but this would have been much faster than what it was. So I actually had 153, 154 batteries in here, and it was pretty good. It wasn't the fastest car. In fact, it trailed for most of the time. And then Leo, I think Leo wanted to win, right? He wanted to just go woof, and he coursed out at the very end, unfortunately. So my car ended up being second place, and Leo was third, even though he was leading much of the time. So yeah, that's what happens when you want to just win. So yeah, silver place victory, pretty cool. I like that. And this really should have done better than it did. So I have to take a little bit more conservative approach next time when I race this. Now, there was also a 5-lane race. When we first walked into Hobbytown, they were conducting a Toon Class 5-lane race, and I missed that, unfortunately, but then it was open class time, and I was able to use 2 cars. Yes, everybody knows Wolfie, everybody knows Venom. These were the cars that I raced last time, and they did fairly well. And unfortunately, Pons, Espinosa's cars, they were so fast. He is a legendary racer, so his cars were so fast. And this little car here stood no chance against his super fast cars. This is a fast car around the right track, around 3-lane tracks, 3-lane style tracks in which there are lots of technical turns. This is like the car to beat, unless it courses out for whatever reason, but this is a really fast car. But this was my shot to glory. And I will say I got into the lap finals a few times with this car because it was that fast. But then someone like Leo would beat me, Pons would beat me, and I got to the final lap, final race, the 5th one, and it was me against 3 of Pons's cars, and I was like, I had a chance right there. I was like, I'm gonna try to win this if I could. So I juiced up the batteries, and then unfortunately it coursed out. It never coursed out prior to that until this race, and I was like, no. And so yeah, that's the way the ball bounces sometimes. But yeah, this one had a shot. It's not as fast as Pons's fastest cars, but it had a shot, and that's all I could hope for. So yeah, pretty cool that something like this, that I was able to get it to the spots that I could get it at, like in those lap final races. It was faster than a lot of people's cars, and I was like quite happy about that. Very, very cool. Well, the ball will bounce hopefully my way next time with this car, but unfortunately, I have to change this entire chassis because this chassis right here, unfortunately, this bottom part, this bottom plate, broke off with the screws. So it left like gaping holes right here. So like the whole chassis is basically damaged. I have to replace all of the bottom part here. I have to replace this part because I tried gluing it in place for the final lap race, and that just wasn't good enough. That wasn't good enough. I should have had an undamaged car racing against Pons because Pons was that fast. So unfortunately, I had this like band-aided solution car to try to race against his supercars. So yeah, I just have to replace the chassis. Hopefully I'll be able to get it to be just as fast as before. We'll try again. We'll see what happens. Yeah, but otherwise, this is a pretty fast car. I like it. Pretty cool. But yeah, one of the Mini 4-wheel drive kids said to me after seeing this car, like I raced this in private right after all the races finished, and this was zooming. This was like zooming along the 5-lane track there. And he said to me, if you raced that car, you probably would have won. Because it really was fast around that track. It was like zipping along like crazy. But unfortunately, we'll never know because I came to the races late and I didn't get to race this in the Toon Class category. So, oh well, next time maybe. So yeah, everybody had a mock frame FMA car for Toon Class. It was like, if you didn't have all of your cars being mock frame FMAs, you had like at least a majority of them. That's what was happening there. And then there were some like specialty cars there. Like Ken had some really fast cars. They were not FMAs, so I was like very impressed with those. I was like, whoa, that's a super fast car and it's not FMA. Whoa, that's like cool. So yeah, for me, like I'm now very comfortable with the FMA chassis. There was a time long ago in which I said, mock frames, blah, FMA, blah. But then I thought about it and I was like, you know, for certain tracks, for certain races, for many tracks actually, FMA is the chassis to beat. Like, there's a reason why so many people love FMAs. Some people have even built Toon Class cars that they raced in Open Class, and they did well in those races. So it's pretty darn cool. But like, this chassis is so cool. It's not the strongest chassis now. In fact, there are so many problems that you can encounter with an FMA chassis. Too many to write home about. But when you get it to work, when you reinforce the front with a double plate, it becomes a very solid car. When you place the right dampers on your car, it becomes a very solid car. And the cool thing is, I've seen so many different designs with so many different mass damper settings that, like, who is correct in setting up their mass dampers? Well, you have to look at the track, you have to look at the nuances, you have to look at what is most important to you. So do you want to make that double dragging back in a smooth way? Or do you want to deal with inclines in a certain way? Or do you want to deal with certain slope jumps a certain way? Like, you have to consider, like, if I'm going to do things a certain way, I'm going to end up sacrificing my ability to resolve other problems on the track. There's not one car that fits every track or every circumstance on a track. No, there isn't. But what you have to do is you have to kind of weigh what's going on the track and try to find the proper balance with what you have in your car to the track itself. And that, my friends, is an art. And I think those racers out on the West Coast, they've more or less perfected this art. They have so much wonderful experience that, like, we East Coast racers, we're getting better. But we have, like, a lot of things that we can learn from our wonderful West Coast racing friends. So thank you, McBite, for coming to the East Coast, sponsoring this race at Hobbytown, and giving me my McBite official jersey. Yes, I'm now part of the McBite team. Yay! Everybody, if you like this video, please slam the like button, subscribe to my channel, and you'll see more videos just like this one. Until next time, everybody, see you, bye.